I'm going to present a project where we work with cognitive accessibility. And first, I would like to present the symbol for cognitive accessibility. That is a standardized symbol in Sweden, and of course, we hope it will be an ISO standard. We don't know when. And one way to define cognitive accessibility is to say that when it works for people who have various all kinds of cognitive impairments, it will be accessibility. And you see another word that you might not have met before. It is Begripsam. That's our Swedish name. It's not a real existing name at all, and neither can be translated into English. But if I try, it would be understandish. And in this project, we are exploring how to develop better user participation through assessments, and we create impact both in design process and standardization, where ordinary methods do not work well for persons with cognitive disabilities. Talking about cognition, we say that it is a mental process. When we receive information, process the information, and decide how to use it. We use our memory to store, retrieve, and use experiences and skills. We use our skills when we move in time and space, when we solve problems, when we understand numbers, letters, and even read. To read text is also a cognitive ability. Having difficulty with any of these functions leads to cognitive problems. And people with cognitive disabilities may have difficulty to understand abstract things, to remember, to plan, to solve problems, to understand language, to read, write, or to organize things, to orientate themselves, and even to concentrate. In this project, Begripsam, we want to highlight the cognitive and linguistic aspects of the accessibility concept. Our definition of cognitive accessibility is to receive and transform information easily, and to be able to decide how this information will be used. The overall approach is design side by side, meaning that the researchers and the persons with different disabilities work closely together and to find new methods that work. These methods already has and can in future influence the development of products, services, standards, and guidelines. Another aim is to describe useful working forms for users and their user organizations in order that they can go on working with accessibility even when the project is finished in about 2 years. And in order to do that, we have this project organized like the slide shows. The project consists of 3 organizations: the Dyslexia Association, the Swedish National Association for Persons with Intellectual Disabilities, and the Autism and Asperger Association. And the contributors belong to these 3 organizations. In the project, they work in a team of about 20 persons with different diagnoses. The diagnoses are autism, Asperger syndrome, ADHD, dyslexia, language disorder, mental retardation, and learning disability. The project has 2 project managers, a group of experts that plan and work in the whole time in the project. And also we have a network. The network consists of researchers, other experts, associations, authorities, agencies working with standardization, developers of web information. Everything what we do will be presented at our web page. You can see here the fungerande medier. And this web page is addressed to all team members, the contributors, as well as the experts, and also addressed to other persons who are interested in this subject, to designers, students, and so on. And for you, if you look at this web page, you will have a good idea if you use the translation, the Microsoft Translator, and be in contact with us. The goal for this project is that the members, the contributors, shall be confident and competent, so they are able to represent users with all cognitive disabilities in, for example, standardization groups or other regulatory bodies. We work in 3 tracks. In track 1, we work all the time with education. The group meet in a boarding school 4 times a year, weekends, totally 12 days a year. In track 2, we are using and evaluating more traditional data collecting tools. All participants have severe challenges regarding cognition. The differences between groups are significant, but the differences between the members in each group are also significant. So in fact, every member in the project can be described as having an individual cognitive profile. And out of that, everybody will understand that it is impossible to use one single method or tool for data collection if you want to work with the whole group. So some participants think that surveys are excellent. Well, not many. Most of them hate surveys. Some can only use pictures, and some participants want to answer by telling a story. Some just want the computer or some other device to register their what they do and how they react. A sort of passive participating by doing. We have tested different kind of user testing: surveys, interviews, group discussions, eye tracking, card sorting. We have discussed but not tested more futuristic approaches as effective interfaces. Focus in the beginning has been on data collection. We often don't know if something is working well for persons with cognitive disabilities because they are also often invisible in, for example, surveys or other studies. We have used a mix of old and new methods and tested them. The findings so far suggest that there are digital gaps between persons with cognitive disabilities and the mainstream society. In track 3, we work with real test cases. So far, the group has evaluated the website of Sweden's largest cinema network, and I can tell you that they have big problems to find their way on this website. They have evaluated different kind of software to protect passwords, functionality on for comments on newspaper websites, representatives for government agencies, public sector, and commercial companies are invited, and the interest for cooperating with the group has grown rapidly. The last meeting we started something that many of the contributors really find difficult. They were supposed to affect something that does not exist. It was the Swedish Consumer Agency. They attended at one meeting and said, "Help us with our new website." But how are you going to discuss and give ideas to something that just exists in another person's mind? Some of the contributors need a longer time to reflect before they give answers. Others have big problems to come with conclusions and ideas in this abstract way. So we had to start a discussion on how to understand the intention or the idea, because they want to say something meaningful to our client. And maybe the whole group suggested that if they could get a checklist, or maybe that they will give our client a checklist to think of that will be general for all websites out of their disabilities and at their different cognitive levels. During this first year, we have realized that our contributors have learned how to evaluate websites, and now they are ready for own design. I'll show you later. In the education, they have knowledge about standards, and standards and guidelines for accessibility that exist today have shortcomings. There is no such things as would improve for those with cognitive disabilities. The standards, therefore, provide better support for people with other types of disabilities. A big reason for the failure is the lack of knowledge, or perhaps we should rather say that the knowledge is not sufficiently documented. There are many who have experienced a lack of cognitive availability, but these experiences are often not investigated and published in a scientific context. The experience reaches not to groups working with standardization or formula rules. We have worked with the VCAG 2. And the VCAG 2 has its four main principles, and we have been looking at number 3, understandable. And it's hard to know what is understandable. If you look at VCAG, text is understandable if it will be at a level for about a young person in the age of 15 years. And we know that there are lots of people who have a cognition that they must read texts easier than what a young person can read. So according to the text and understanding and VCAG 2, if you look at a description to the left on the picture, if you give information in text how to create a so-called web part, a traditional menu with text is accepted, but if you show it in a videotape or film, it's not qualified according to the VCAG 2. It is necessary to add text. And if we then look at the Swedish company, the IKEA, perhaps you have bought something from IKEA, but there you will have printings that will show you how to make your furniture. And they also have films. Talking to our contributors, we know that this is a cognitive easier way to get information, but it's not accepted in the standard. If we just take a short view back to how we have presented to our contributors how this project is in 3 tracks. Now, when we met them the last time, they made an own model. They worked a couple of days, and the final result is a model of the project. This is the model. And it really was fantastic to realize that they now were ready to present their own ideas. You can see the whole group in activity with lamps symbolizing their ideas. Question marks for not answered questions. And other symbols from surveys and questionnaires on the note lines. The track 2 with the tests and so on, you can see in the green design. And all of them know now that they are working towards guidelines, standardization, and using the arrow they show that the last goal is the universal design.